Do you like traveling? When you go for a trip, who does the packing? Maybe your mother does? Well, if you do that yourself, do you think you will do a decent job? Will you be able to pack everything that you may need during your trip? Well, the story Packing by Jerome talks about the struggle the author and his friends had when they were packing for a trip. The story is actually an excerpt from the humorous novel Three Men in a Boat. The story starts with the author proclaiming that he was a master packer and there was no one who could do it better. He asked his friends George and Harris to leave the task to him. His friends took the cue and took their seats in the chair and the sofa to watch over the process. The author did not expect that. His objective was to supervise his friends and he expected his friends to do the actual packing. He remembered that once he had a boss who used to sit quietly and watch him work. He used to make sarcastic comments on the author's messed up attempts to complete tasks. His idea of supervising his friends in a similar manner came from there. When his friends failed to understand his actual intention, he started packing on his own. After a lot of struggle, when he was about to close the bag, his friend Harris told him that he might not have packed his boots. The author understood that his friend intentionally had not told him about this mistake earlier. This was followed by an irritating laugh of George, his other friend. He opened the bag and packed his boots in. Then another thought came to his mind. Had he packed his toothbrush? In a humorous way, Jerome explains how his toothbrush had always haunted him. He always forgot whether he had packed his toothbrush, and that idea would give him nightmares. He would often pack it before he would use it in the morning. He would have to unpack his bag and use the toothbrush and repack it. To figure out whether he had packed his toothbrush, he had to pour out everything from the bag, and finally, after a lot of struggle, he found it inside a boot. He had to pack his bag again. When he finally finished, George suggested that he might not have packed his soap. It was another attempt to irritate the author. Jerome said that he didn't care whether he had packed his soap, but his struggle was not over yet. He realized that he had packed his spectacles in the bag. He had to open it again, and finally, when the packing was over, it was already 5 minutes past 10. George and Harris offered to pack the food hamper. Jerome decided to take some rest. His friends started in a happy mood, but the author was sure that they would soon start making mistakes, and it would be his turn to irritate them. He did not have to wait long. They broke a cup first, then Harris smashed the tomatoes by packing the jar of strawberry jam on top of them. They had to pick out the tomatoes with a spoon, then there was no stopping. They stepped on some butter and other things, lost things often, packed pies at the bottom and packed heavy things on top, etc. The butter gave them much trouble. George had stepped on it and then they tried to put it in a kettle. It didn't go in and what was in wouldn't come out. They finally put it on a chair and Harry sat on it and it stuck to him. They then searched the entire room in search of it and finally, when they found it, they packed it in a teapot. The author's dog Montmorency finally joined the pack. He was a big troublemaker. The author makes a remark here that his dog's only objective was to create trouble for others and get cursed or things thrown at him. He would take tripping people over to be his greatest achievement. Montmorency gave much trouble to both George and Harris. They felt his cold nose everywhere. He put his leg into the jam, played with the spoons, chewed the lemons, imagining them to be rats. In response to his friend Harris's accusation that he encouraged the dog, the author said that the dog needed no encouragement as it was his natural, original sin. The packing was finally over at 12:50. They decided to rest. There was still an argument regarding when they should wake up the next morning. However, they soon fell asleep. The story ends here. It is a funny story. You need to read it through to properly relish on the well-used humor. That's all for today. Thank you.